Hey everyone, welcome back to another edition of Movies That Move We. Today we are discussing the film Why Did I Get Married? And we'll probably touch on Why Did I Get Married too as well. So, Zenny, take it away.
So this film starts off with a group of friends. They take a trip to wherever they decide to vacation. They take a trip every year as like a couples retreat. And I guess it's a chance for them to kind of, build on their relationships, kind of talk about what their problems are, things of that nature. So Patricia, which is played by Janet Jackson, she's actually the basically host of the trip, her and her husband Gavin, because she's like this psychologist, and she also is a professor, I believe, as well. But she kind of specializes in a lot of this stuff. Yeah. So basically it starts off where they're heading to Colorado this year for their couples retreat. And it's in the mountains. They're all getting ready for their trip. And I guess for me, one of the most interesting, couples to me, or the one that kind of stuck out to me the most, was Sheila and Mike, which Sheila is played by Jill Scott, and Mike is played by Richard T. Jones. So basically, it starts off where they're on a plane, she's sitting in a seat in front, and he's right behind her, but he's sitting with her best friend, which I'm sitting here kind of like...
Well, it's not just that she was sitting in front. He made her sit in front. She was about to sit with her best friend, and he was like, nah, sit up there. And she ended up sitting between two other passengers.
So that was...
And the Walter got up and complained that he doesn't want to sit beside this big woman.
Yeah, and just the whole thing was very baffling to me, because I was just sitting there like, there would be no way ever in life that my husband is not sitting next to me, one. And better yet, telling me that I have to sit in the front and he's sitting next to my female single unmarried friend.
And then when they said, listen, a woman of your size, a person of your size, the airline requires us to buy 2 seats and we're full.
Yeah.
We don't have any other seating available. His response was basically, well, your ass too big anyway. Here's some money, drive.
Yeah, just sent her off to go drive up the mountain in the snow.
The energy I just delivered, it's like, hey, get off the plane. See you when we get there.
And we can touch on it a little bit later, but I just didn't even understand why the friend was invited, because she was like a single woman.
Well, she did explain that. Sheila said that she was hoping that she could take her friend up there and there'd be some nice single man that she could meet while they were up in the mountains.
Well, anyway, so basically Mike sent her on her merry way to go drive all the way to Colorado from where they were at, to basically drive in the snow with this, it was an older vehicle too. It wasn't like a newer car or anything like that. And eventually, all the couples meet up, and we have Angela and Marcus, which Angela is played by Tasha Smith and Marcus is played by Michael J. White. Their issue is that they're just constantly going back and forth, and they have this kind of like toxic relationship where they constantly argue over who's cheating on who's messing around with who, your baby mama, I'm paying all the bills right now and you're not. So it's just like they have a lot of like that going on. Then we have Terry and Diane, which is played by Tyler Perry and Sharon Leo.
Just trust me, it's Leo.
Okay, I just want to make sure I'm saying it right. So their issue is that, Diane, she has a tendency, she is a lawyer. So
she just made junior partner.
Yeah. So it's like her job is pretty intense, where she's constantly working all the time. So, and Terry is a pediatrician. So it's kind of like,
they're both professionals. They both have to put the same energy, but she's leaving a lot of the household and child rearing to him. They have one child, but she's so focused on, I just made junior partner, I want to make partner, that means I got to do all of these things. She's putting that first, and he's kind of like, but we said we'd have another kid. When are we gonna work on having another kid?
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, so basically they have that kind of bone of contention where it's like, you know, one partner just feels like they're not getting enough time, they're not able to plan certain things in their relationship like they said they would. And then I believe the last couple that I didn't necessarily go into, I mentioned them, was Patricia and Gavin. They're the ones hosting the trip, but basically it's like they kind of come off like they're perfect because she's a psychologist and a professor, and then he's a architect. So it's like they have this kind of picture perfect life, which you then come to find out that things have happened in their life where their relationship isn't that perfect.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, of course, her being a psychologist, it's like, and her being the leader, quote unquote, of the group, and she's trying to guide her friends through how to work out their relationships because she has all of this knowledge about relationships.
Yeah. Well,
she's, you know, perfect Patty. She doesn't do anything wrong. It's kind of like her relationship is perfect and their life is perfect. So it's like that's how everybody views them.
So the thing is, she organizes the trip because she wrote this book that's very successful called Why Did I Get Married? And so she's kind of counseling the masses on, okay, this is a mindset. If this is not going right, then you need to ask yourself, what's my role in it? And that's kind of the energy that she gives.
Mm-hmm.
But she never really talks about what the issues are
in
their marriage. So that kind of sets the tone for the whole film. You start to see everybody's cracks, including hers, even though they're not put forward.
Mm-hmm.
Not like deliberately put forward in the film. You don't really see their cracks completely break until Why Did I Get Married Too?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So a lot of the focus in this film was on Sheila and Mike.
Yeah, in the first one, yeah. Because it was like, basically once they got to the cabin, it was basically, I think Sheila was the last one to get there. So everybody else is already there. They end up getting introduced to Sheila's best friend that was invited on the trip. And Mike is kind of rolling up there with her as if like that's
it's
his
perfectly normal, it's fine.
Yeah, like, and he's kind of giving off this essence of like they have something going on. So, you know, the guys are picking up on it. They pull him aside and they're like, hey dude, what's going on? Like, who is this girl? And we understand you guys are introducing this as Sheila's friend, but like, what's really going on? Mm-hmm. And he's like, look, like, I'm not happy in my marriage. You know, I'm not happy with the way my wife looks. I'm getting some right now. Like, and she's the one that's willing to give it to me. So that's what we're doing. Mm-hmm. And I feel like the women also picked up on some, especially Angela, because she's like the queen of like, something's going on. He's cheating. Right. Like,
let's talk about Angela for a minute. Angela is played by Tasha Smith. I don't think I've seen very many roles where she is just like calm.
Actually, First Wives Club, she is pretty calm and even keel.
First Wives Club, but even no, I'm thinking of the other one that she's in with Michelle Buteau. No, she wasn't in. Even there, she had a little bit of
spice to her.
Little bit of spice, but that's the only role I can recall where she's just kind of like chill. Right here. This, oh no, she's setting things off. She called the girl out immediately. She was like, who is this? Why are you up in here? How are you here? But Sheila isn't. What's going on? And she had her side chat with her friends and was like, as soon as Sheila gets here, I'm telling.
Yeah.
I'm telling. Now, you said something interesting that I didn't pick up on.
So, actually, it wasn't even something that I necessarily picked up on. It was a post that I saw because I don't know if anybody else is noticing this trend on social media, but Tyler Perry's stuff is like getting a lot of like commentary on social media, like his older films. So this film in particular popped up on social media, and it's a picture of all the women in the group, and it says Angela was Sheila's only real friend out of the group. And I sat back and thought about it, and I said, you know what, they might be onto something, because I felt like when initially it was a kind of like a vibe of like maybe there's something going on, I can get as a friend saying, you know what, let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's not, say anything quite yet, because we don't know if that's 100% true.
Mm-hmm.
And they shut Angela down with that.
Mm-hmm.
But once Angela actually saw, that night, they saw Mike and
into the other person's
yeah,
the other character's name was Trina. And I didn't jot her name down, played by, her last name's Boutte too. I can't think of her name. But Trina, excuse me, had one room.
mm-hmm.
Mike had another room. And in the middle of the night, he went tiptoeing into her room. And Tasha happened to hear him and peeked outside the door and saw him dipping in there. So that's when she was like, bump what everybody else says. I'm telling my friend what happened.
But, and, I had to agree with that, because me, personally, if I saw one of my girlfriends being cheated on, like, or even if I had some type of information where their husband or significant other is doing something inappropriate, I'm calling a spade, and I'm like letting it be known, like, look, like, your husband is doing this, it's inappropriate, we're on a couples trip, like, you need to talk to him, figure out what's going on. Like, that's just what it would have been for me. But I feel like even after, Angela got evidence that something inappropriate was going on, it was kind of like Patricia and Diane were just like,
yeah,
I don't need to really say anything, because what if she gets mad at us? And it's like, look, I'd rather my friend get mad at me for a minute and like know what's going on. But I did pick up that in the first film, and even in the second film, I just kind of feel like, even though they're a group and they're all friends, I feel like some relationships are closer than others, if that makes sense.
And that's normal.
Or like some people had each other's backs more than others in the film. That's just something I noticed.
So what all comes out is Sheila, it comes out around the dinner table, and when confronted, Mike is like, yeah, I'm tired of you. Look at you. You're fat. You're not taking care of yourself. You're not attractive to me anymore. This chick over here, love it. So yeah, we can just end this right now. I don't love you anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Now, prior to that dinner, Sheila, on her way up, stopped at the small police station where Troy, the sheriff of the town, which is played by Lamont Rucker. Oh my God. Anyway, she stops there and is like, okay, how far is it to the cabin? And he was like, 5 minutes, but you're not going to make it. Mm-hmm. And she was like, why not? He was like, there's trees down. They're not going to move until morning. But the house that they're staying at happens to be my dad's old place. So, I can offer you a cell to sleep in for the night, and then we can head up there tomorrow. I know exactly where it is. So she ended up staying the night at the station. He brought her in, sat down at dinner with everybody, and witnessed the shenanigans, which ended with Sheila busting a bottle over Mike's head.
And I do want to point something out, because it actually kind of ties into the second film a little bit. Before she cracked him over the head with the bottle, he basically was like, look, this is what it is, let's just call it done. Let's get a divorce. You can have the old rental property. And I could just, after watching the second film, it kind of made a little bit more sense to me why, in that moment, along with hearing that her man is cheating on her, doesn't want her, thinks that she's undesirable, and is sleeping with her very good friend, I could see why she bubbled up like that. Because
she's been holding it in for a while.
There was a lot of abuse, there was a lot of trauma in the first apartment that she talks about in the second film. And it's like, I can kind of see why she snapped like that. Yeah.
But not only that, she was working so hard to be the kind of woman that he wanted, that she was always putting herself last. She was stressed out. She seemed like she might have been depressed. And, you see when she's on her drive up where she kind of wants to be upset that he's making her drive to this location that he's taking a plane to.
It's because it's like she's basically getting like the shorter end of the stick.
Well, that's the given.
Yeah.
But the thing that she was kind of leaning on, because she pulled over to pray.
Mm-hmm.
Not saying prayer doesn't help or prayer doesn't change anything, but that was her thing, because, you know, I'm a godly woman. I have to make this work, you know, and that in itself is, in my opinion, just the wrong dynamic. Both of y'all need to be making it work. He wasn't interested in making it work, and ultimately they ended up not being together, and she ended up staying in Colorado because she wasn't taking that apartment, and she didn't want to go back to that
environment.
Right.
She just wanted like a fresh, clean slate. Troy was basically like, look, like, we can work out together. We can pray together. He took her to a mountaintop where they just cried, screamed, did whatever they needed to do to kind of release whatever was going on in that moment. And I think in that they were able to build a relationship, because it was like, here it is. There's this man that just did not appreciate me, constantly put me down, constantly made me feel worthless. And now there's this person that doesn't know me from a can of paint, but is just willing to be that gracious and that loving and that supportive of me. It was like, you know, it was just the perfect setup for a romance to kind of blossom out of that.
Right. And so, in all, I mean, you see this, all of this kind of transfer over, like I said, into Why Did I Get Married To? You see a different set of cracks. You see things that are holding together well, but maybe a little rickety. And in 2, it focused on Patricia and Gavin, the couple that always seemed to have it together. There was this tension between them. Things weren't working out anymore. And her big issue was she was in, I'm not going to say she was in denial, but she carried a lot of guilt about the death of her son. If you haven't seen it before, I won't tell you how that happened, but she blamed herself. And quite frankly, Gavin blamed her too. Also. They never had another child after that first one, and that's probably driven by some guilt. But you can see her friends noticing there's something wrong. There's something off with you right now. And her answer was always, I'm fine. I'm fine. Everything's fine. Everything's great. I'm fine. Come to find out, the last day of their retreat, when they get up, they do this thing where they get up and say, why did we get married? And everyone else went around. There was an older couple that they met on the beach that they invited.
And this is in the second film,
This is a second. Louis Gossett Jr. and Cicely Tyson played this couple, and they told the whole story about how they met, how they thought they'd be together and they wouldn't, and they met again later in life, and they'd been together ever since. And, you know, everybody sat there and they listened to the whole thing, and then they said, all right, Pat, it's your turn. You guys wrap it up. And she was like, oh, how could we possibly follow that? Trying to avoid going up. They pushed, peer pressure won. They got up there, and she was about to say, make something up, and then she goes, just want to tell you guys, we're getting divorced. And you could see on Gavin's face, he was like,
why would you tell everybody?
Why would you do this right here, right now? Because again, their relationship, how they presented to friends was, everything's fine, everything's okay, everything is private. And so that's where you see the beginning of, or the tail end, I should say, of their unraveling. The extra guest at this particular retreat was Mike, without his girlfriend. Um, and I don't know that there's too much more to get into there. I think, well, Tyler Perry's role, Terry and Diane.
Mm-hmm.
He noticed she was acting differently. The group of friends were like, "Girl, you're glowing. What's going on?"
Mm-hmm.
There was somebody else there, which I didn't see coming from the first one, that she would cheat on Terry. But anyway, all of those things. If you haven't watched it, go ahead and watch it. I don't want to give too much away. But you see who unravels, you see who stays together. And that brings us to our next thing about how people in general, what they thought about the movie. Now, if you go to, what is it, the tomato, Red Tomato, the reviews on both films, horrible. I happen to think these are good movies.
The first one was the best one, in my opinion.
Of the two.
In my opinion.
Yeah.
The second one, and I've watched this with like my peers and things like that, we all have the same opinion. The second one, the way it ended, and I'm not going to give it away, but it's like the way it ended, I'm just like, no. This needs to be rewritten. Like, that's literally how I feel. Because it's just like, this is not right. I'm not liking the way that... And it's not even so much about me as the audience, just like, as I guess selfishly saying, I don't like the way it ended. But it's more so just like, these pieces are not like... No, it's just not working at all. So I would just watch it for yourself and kind of get a gauge. But honestly, I feel like out of both films, the first one is definitely the better one, like storyline wise. I just don't really like the way the second one kind of spinned off.
I'll agree with that to a point. I think the point of that particular ending was to bring about the irony. Now, by the very end, both of us were like, run! And when you watch it, you'll see what we were talking about. We were like, don't do it, run. But that
just
brings us...
Black Widow in mind. Like, just keep that in the sticky side of your brain when you're watching the second one.
But what I wanted to point out by bringing up the reviews and stuff is people have you either love the stuff that Tyler Perry does, or you see it as a problem to Black culture, period. The way I look at Tyler Perry's body of work, and I haven't watched all of his television series, but the way I look at his body of film works, if you like Hallmark movies or Lifetime movies, you'll love all of his stuff.
And I like how you keep saying that, like, everything that Tyler Perry does, it has a formula. So there's always kind of like, when you watch these films, you kind of know that there's going to be heartache or some type of challenge or issue. Mm-hmm. You know that there's going to be kind of like a savior figure that comes in to try to help said problem, challenge, or individual that is dealing with this. Mm-hmm. And then there's some kind of like, I guess, revelation or turning point with the villain or whatever is causing the problem or challenge. Mm-hmm. And then there's this happily ever after type ending.
Right.
For the most part.
Right. And I mean, that's the formula for romance. That's the formula for drama. You throw some comedy in it, you got a rom-com, and those are the things that's his niche, you know. And his audience, definitely Black audience, because there are tidbits even with the Medea, I think especially with the Medea films, that people can relate to. Everybody has that type of mother figure that's like, even if she's not a gun-toting, been in jail, used to work the pole, type of grandma. Everybody has that one grandma. It ain't both your grandmas, it's one grandma that puts everybody in line. And so, you know, people take issue with some of that, because they're like, this isn't how we are. We don't want to present ourselves like this to the world. And when they say we don't want to present ourselves like this to the world, we don't want to present ourselves like this to white people, because of the old image of black people in film at the very start of the cinematic world. You know, they had us what they call shucking and jiving. We were always showing all of our teeth. Everything was, oh yeah, I gotta dance, and I gotta, entertain. I have to sit here and act like the jolly Negro. And, people feel like that's what Tyler Perry has taken us back to. But when I look at it, I'm like, you have television shows like Jackass. You have all of these TV shows where, well, not just TV shows, movies.
I think
where you have men in drag.
And I think there is a show, just like going based off what you said about Jackass, I think there's another one called like Trailer Park or something.
My thing is,
like, there's all types of shows that will reflect on stereotypical
white
things with
things.
Yeah. So I feel like, but with his stuff, I don't know, for me it's like I don't look at it that way. I look at it as Tyler Perry grew up in a certain background where this is his life. Like, this is stuff that he experienced in his lifetime. This might have been how his grandmother, his aunt, or his mother figure was. Yeah. So it's like,
he said that Medea is a culmination of a lot of women in his family, and at this point we're tying into the documentary Maxine's baby, which talks about his whole career, where he started, how his mother supported him, how he got to where he is now, and why he's so driven, and creating all of these films and TV series and what have you. But it touched on the background, and I encourage you to watch it because it gives a different understanding of why he tells stories like Why Did You Get Married and Diary of a Mad Black Woman and all of these types of films. Like Zenny said, this was his experience. The way he expresses how these situations come about, somewhere in his lifeline, he's seen something like that. His father was abusive. I'm going to compare the character. His mom could have been Sheila. Okay, because she was in this abusive relationship with his father. And he says in the documentary, he says, I don't understand it, but she loved that man till the day she died. Okay, and there are a lot of people, you can probably, off the top of your head, think about 2 or 3 people in your circle where it's like, I know this woman who really doesn't need to be with that dude. He doesn't treat her well, but she's staying. She's staying, and she's taking all of the mess that he's delivering, kind of thing. And so that's what he writes. He was raised in church. So you'll notice in his films, just about every film he's done, there's the element of, what does God say you should do? Or, how should you handle this using your faith as the tool to get through? And that's very much involved in what he does. And that's how he started. He didn't just show up and start doing plays, in wide open spaces. He started with the church crowd. They loved his stuff. He wrote more of what they loved. So by the time he showed up in Hollywood, Hollywood was like, we don't know you. But when they went and asked all of their black staff, they asked their staff together, all of the black people are like, oh yeah, we know about him. We know who that is. So all of that to say, it's hard to watch his stuff without understanding his background. or it's hard to see his stuff as relevant to the Black experience. In the documentary, there was one person who was like, I don't think he's proven that he really understands the industry, but he's actually changed it because he showed up and he came out of pocket for his stuff. He owns all the rights to all of his shows. Recently we heard that he's like, I don't like writers' rooms. They take too long to write. And I can do it myself. I have so many long-running shows to prove it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's just his drive as far as how he puts stuff out so quickly. And they even had clips of him directing. He was like, we're going to do this, get it done. And he directs. Everybody does their thing. And he's like, all right, we did that in one take. Let's move on to the next one. And so he's hungry, which is why he has what he has today as far as his own studio. He has the means of bringing in other Black talent and having the space for them to use to produce their films, tell their stories. So again, love him or hate him, the man's doing the darn thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's not going to slow down. Even how Medea came about
it was interesting to
yeah.
me, because it was like, I guess the person that was originally supposed to play Medea, she never showed. So having the mentality that he has, he's like, look, the show must go on. I'm just going to dress up like Medea and do it myself. And I didn't even know that for as long as I've been watching the plays and the movies and stuff like that. I just kind of thought he did it to be silly or whatever, but no, that was actually like an improv, and it ended up taking off for him. So
and that's why he still does it.
Yeah.
You know, if the formula ain't broke.
And look, I mean, Eddie Murphy has done it. Martin Lawrence has done it. It's just kind of like, to me, I don't get upset to see a man in drag being funny. Like, I just don't see it that way.
They're doing their job. And again,
Robin Williams did it
John
too.
Travolta.
Yeah.
There's a lot of men who have done it black and white. So I don't think we should be so hard on our creatives as far as the stories they tell and how they go about telling
and
them.
I believe also in like just theatrical, like theater and all that other stuff.
That's not unusual.
It's not unusual for like men to play female roles and for females to play male roles.
That's how stage plays started as far back as Shakespeare. First of all, the theater was, I mean, you might as well have been a prostitute. There was not a great appreciation for actors at that time. And starting out, it was even worse for women to be on the stage acting. Men played both roles. So historically speaking, this ain't unusual. It doesn't explain anything about anyone's sexuality. Again, they're doing their job. They're acting. They're acting. So all in all, between both of the movies, Why Did I Get Married? Why Did I Get Married To? I'm not going to say this is my favorite. There are some others that I like way better. But this isn't a horrible story. It's a good story. If you're just looking for, like I said, that Lifetime Hallmark type story, you have it right here. So I'd recommend check it out if you haven't. Diary of a Mad Black Woman is way better.
Yeah, that is, first of all, that is the centerpiece. If you haven't seen that movie, go watch it. It's literally one of his best movies, in my opinion.
And that was was that his first?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was his first film based off of his play by the same name. And another thing, his cast, the people that he brings in, they're loyal.
Yeah, because people that were in the plays, if you ever pay attention, I think her name is Shonda or something like that. I think that's her name, but that's one of the singers that he always used in the plays, and she ended up kind of following him into the movies. She's been in like multiple movies. Yeah, she was in Diary of a Mad Black Woman. She was in The Jazz Club. I want to say she was in Family Reunion, but I don't 100% remember that. But I know she's been in a couple other ones. And then she was also like the church singer in Medea's Big Happy Family. So it's like he will pull actors and actresses from when he was doing his plays. He will pull people that have never been seen on the screen before ever as well.
Well, he's bringing back a lot of the older actors and actresses, people that have been out of our line of sight for a while, that Hollywood has just said, yeah, we can't do anything with them anymore. Cicely Tyson, he kept her working, you know, up until she passed away. And so, and what was the last movie he did with the woman who was an accountant and got flim flam? People were cracking up about it. They were focused on the wigs, which wig game needs to be elevated, but that's a story for another time. But I forget the name of that actress, but she hadn't been seen in years. And he was like, I remember her, I'm going to bring her back. And as far as that particular role, I think she did great in that role. But again, there's a lot to unpack with any Tyler Perry movie, and it usually starts for a lot of people with I don't know if this is the way we should be represented. And I'm going to say, I can't say that it's not. Because it's somebody's story.
Yeah, somebody's reality. Yeah.
And honestly, you know, someone in the documentary said, I don't know, this feels like a therapy session. And instead of him putting it on film, he should just go on to a therapist and leave the rest of us out of it. But again, most writers write in some element. They'll write their experiences. They'll put things that they know and understand.
Anything in the arts will always tie back to mental, like, period. That's just what it is.
So, again, check it out. Leave us some feedback. Tell us what you thought about both movies. Tell us what you thought if you saw the documentary, Maxine's Boy. Tell us what you thought about that. I know we covered 3 things at once, but there was no way not to. Honestly. So we look forward to your comments. If you're not following us, follow us here in the group. Make sure you follow our page over on YouTube. The playlist is called Movies That Move We. It's on Media That Moves We. And like, share, tell a friend, tell a family member, join the conversation. Don't be shy about leaving comments here in the group or on the YouTube video. Heck, do both. We welcome the engagement. All right. So this is going to be our last show until sometime in January. I think we'll be back by mid-January. I will keep you posted. But we're going to go ahead and enjoy the rest of this December, do some family things, and then we'll be back in the new year with a whole slew of other things that we can talk about. So until next time, have a happy Christmas. Have a happy New Year. See you later. Bye. Bye.